Ready, and Teresa, Charlie, Veronica, Det, look, 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 hat down. Okay. That was good.
The concept for Parry the Plattler has been around almost since the first conception of the TV show itself. It went through countless changes. There were concepts for episodes called The Pilot, The Plattler and the Pianist, The Princess and the Plattler, The Princess, The Plattler and the Pilot. Lots of different concepts, lots of different idiosyncrasies we played around with, and we finally settled on this because adding the character of Parry and Clove kind of makes it a busy storyline, and letting someone like the Plattler, who's already been introduced, have another chance at kind of carrying an episode by himself was a really great way to keep the plot straightforward enough to not be confusing, and at the same time integrate a lot of new characters in a way that you could pay more attention to them and their idiosyncrasies.
Parry is a thief, a kleptomaniac. However, instead of purposefully stealing others' property, she actually finds the things that people lose, such as phones, or wallets, or single socks, etc. If you lost something, she most likely has it. She's a more innocent younger character who just wants to help out her adopted sister Clove, and eventually Sheila, who invites her into Hollywood. She tries to explain to Sheila that Clove is actually good to her, but in the end, we realize that she understands all the emotional harm and confusion that she has mistakenly put her under.
The concept of Parry's character was something that Veronica came up with, the idea of personifying the parallel universe. When random stuff goes missing and seems to have vanished into thin air, we figured that our universe was wacky enough to have an identity, a kleptomaniac, who was kind of responsible for all those missing items in the world. Parry is a very sweet and innocent character. She's definitely one of the more childlike characters. I would say the Plattler is the only one kind of on her level when it comes to being like a younger person, to the point where she makes Sheila kind of take on the role of a mentor. Sheila makes friends with Parry and sort of supplies herself as another role model for Parry, so that Parry can choose between Sheila and the kind of suspicious Clove that she's been following and letting take care of her whole life. Charlie really stole the show in this role. She read the script and she came at it almost with an interpretation that I personally hadn't even seen in the character, of this complete innocence, this wide-eyed incredulity at all the world. Every time I turned around, Charlie had me cracking up with just the expression on her face that her mind had been blown. And
yes.
Here are...
We'll make that happen.
Good. She's like all excited.
Wait, show us, Charlie. Let's see your parents. Oh, Parry's parents, the salt and pepper shaker.
My
papa.
Anyone like a cookie? Leave Barnaby out of this.
Clove is a mysterious character. She's very smart with her heist planning and very realistic in what she needs to do to get it done. She's also an animist, someone who thinks that objects have feelings and emotions. And even though it's very clear that she's crazy, she still holds herself to a higher standard, thinking that she's not.
The concept of an animist is, of course, a very comedic concept, that you would think everything around you is an identity and has a personality, that inanimate objects are people just like us. But instead of going with the comedic side of an idiosyncrasy like we usually do, we decided to let Clove's idiosyncrasy be more of a problem, almost let it catalyst her into the role of a villain.
Over the course of this episode, she seems to be inching more towards the deep end, and she finally falls in when she betrays even her adopted sister Parry.
Animists, as a rule, I would imagine, are very material-minded. They don't care as much about human beings because in their mind everything has the same value.
Near the end, we realize that she's so devoted to her belief in sentient objects that she actually betrays real humans for them.
Clove is definitely the nastiest of the nuts we've ever come across so far in the plotline. Her idiosyncrasy is not a positive trait like many of the others. And she is the first failure that the Underground Railroad has endured.
Okay.
Oh, Dini.
She's a perfect Jawa.
Teresa Marchand is the best actress I know. Hence, Clove comes off as being a very difficult, hard to get along with, and almost creepy kind of nut. Which is hilarious when you're on the set with her because Teresa is the nicest person in the world.
She's looking at that living.
Sorry, see you.
Work up the corporate ladder, become the leader, and then we can have donuts for everyone.
And finally we have Bill. Poor Bill, the warden who just wants to prove his worth to the commandant.
I'm gonna do the mission, sir.
Is that a good?
They won't even see me, sir. One of those nuts I'm gonna kidnap it, and I'll take him.
He is said to be an almost useless warden who hasn't prevented any escapes or made any captures or any other duties that wardens are expected to do.
No captures, no escapes. Yeah.
Throughout this episode, we follow Bill on a mission to successfully capture the plotter and keep him secure. But in all, he is a kind-hearted warden with a determined mindset. He just needs the means to get where he wants to be. Commandant and King of Donuts.
This was not actually the first time that Peter Alarcon played the role of Bill. He had played the role of Bill in an episode that we filmed last summer, a very small cameo appearance, but he was so good in his role that we decided to take the role of Bill and give it a little bit of a prequel to his story and kind of figure out where this character came from and just let him steal the scene a little bit more. When you see an actor like Peter, who did an exceptional job in a very small role, it's very tempting to take that potential and do something like we did and give him a complete side plot to himself.
The mission, sir. The one where I had to kidnap one of the nuts, sir. So I could keep my job?
Bill is also a character that doesn't necessarily have a happy ending in this story. Similar to Clove, we find it almost a cliffhanger, but also just a little bit of a failure at the end, the conclusion of his side plot. Okay, I'm getting some serious face. One thing that I find really neat about this episode is the rapport that kind of accidentally happened among the actors in the way that we paired characters. Charlie, Gerard, and I getting to act together was a whole lot of fun because we're really close friends. Veronica and Teresa being best buddies and kind of having to play the roles of two women who really don't like each other was really hilarious.
They are capable of love and hate, just like you and I. Don't laugh. Be respectful, woman. Can't you see that?
And of course, Peter and Gabe spent most of their scenes coming up with how they would make it more comedic than it even was in the script. Action.
Oh, wait, I didn't know we were taking it directly from there.
They kept adding on to how good they could make their roles, both hamming it up and just having a lot of fun with each other.
So, you say what mission?
Okay.
And
Peter actually named himself while filming when he introduced himself as Bill Donutman. And Jimmy saw the raw footage and said, well, that's official, that's his name. That's perfect.
I'm a warden. W-R...
The role of Bill has always been a tempting one to explore, to take a warden, since wardens up to this point have always been just stereotypical bad guys, and kind of explore what would happen if you had a warden who was a little bit more sweet and one you could sympathize with a little bit, and see the war from their perspective, and realize that it's a very hard life to chase nuts all your life under the jurisdiction of a strict commandant. We're kind of seeing how the other half lives, and letting Bill put a rather sweet face on all those faceless wardens that we've encountered so far.
cut.
This episode was edited by James McCarthy. He was the one that kind of envisioned exactly the heist style, and he knew what kind of edits he wanted. He practically directed from a distance, telling us certain camera angles that would go with what he was envisioning. He's just ready to beat Matt up, okay? And I really like that, because even though he isn't here in California for the filming, he can still make sure that that half of the creative team leaves his stamp on the final product.
Yeah, James, I feel like you're writing these scenes just because you want to see me, like, tied up.
One really fun element of this episode was that we got to return to the original set from The Darn Good Escape, which is the Santiago Retreat Center owned by the Dulac family out in Silverado Canyon.
I can also see Gabe. I don't know if that's bad.
They're very generous in letting us use their retreat center.
Peter had like her legs and we were just holding her.
That's what I was thinking.
What if you let me go that I crushed Teresa? And Charlie. And Ryan.
This is true.
You know?
Harry, just see how
It'll
far.
put me out of my misery,
just see
it's
how
fine.
far.
Unlike most of the episodes that we filmed last summer in 2020, this episode was written in 2021 and filmed 2 weeks before it was aired. None of the cast ever saw the completed script. Every time we did a movie shoot, the actors were given only the lines from the specific scenes we were working on. So for everybody involved, except for me, the final product was quite a surprise to all the actors. They didn't know what the other half of the cast was doing in their scenes, and I think for a lot of them, they had no idea of the context even of the scenes they were in.
Uh-huh.
Not so Valley Girl.
Yeah, huh? Yeah.